It's extremely important to take some time to step away from teaching. Don't take papers home to grade. Don't respond to emails on weeknights and weekends. Actually take your sick days, especially when you're not feeling well, and actually take your paid time off. And on fall, winter, spring, and summer breaks, actually take breaks. But what about in the micro stage in terms of being able to recover from one lesson to another? I don't know about for you, but I had some classes that were like consistently great to work with, and some classes or some individuals who were consistently challenging at times. I realized early on that I needed to be able to just kind of like come up with some sort of a mental reset in between those classes. Because if I had a very difficult student in one class, I didn't want it to kind of like carry over into the next class and have a bad attitude or something, which would cause students to have like a bad experience in that class. One of the things that I started doing was like mini little workouts in between my sessions to kind of like process the energy. So I'd do like just like push-ups, or I'd do like really slow, like diamond push-ups or something, just to kind of get that energy out and to kind of relax. Another thing that I do is just like a very short meditation. I just sit and focus on my breath or focus on my circulation and my blood, like feeling the timing difference between my heartbeat and my wrist. That for me is very calming. There are many little rituals that you can do in between each one of the classes, and the authors talk about how this is very important for athletes and for corporate athletes. But we can apply this to educators. One of the things they talk about is like if you miss a shot or miss a goal as an athlete, it can be devastating, but then you're expected to perform like immediately. You got to get right back into it, depending on what kind of sport you're doing. So if you like botch a serve when you're playing tennis or something, you can't be stuck in that mindset and be like, oh, I messed up. Instead, you have to press F5 and just kind of like mentally refresh and then try another serve. Same thing for teaching. In between each one of your classes, or even if you're working with a difficult student and then you walk over to the next student right next to them and they're a great student, you want to make sure you're not in that mental space where you're still like, oh, I'm frustrated, but are instead more calm and are able to assist the student. So the authors mention that the players who are able to have these little mental refreshes in between moments of high performance, this quote, allow players to avoid negative feelings, focus their minds, and prepare for the next point. By contrast, players who lack between point rituals or who practice them inconsistently become linear. They expend too much energy without recovery. Regardless of their talent or level of fitness, they become more vulnerable to frustration, anxiety, and loss of concentration, and far more likely to choke under pressure, end quote. Now imagine if we focus on this more in our PLCs. This, I think, would be very beneficial for educators. What kind of strategies do you use to press F5 in between difficult moments when teaching? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast was from episode 201, which is titled The Making of an Educator Athlete. You can listen to the full episode as well as hundreds more by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app or by going to jaredoleary.com.